Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going through every single book on my physical TBR. So TBR stands for to be read. So these are all of the books that I own that are on my shelves that I haven't read yet. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot. So one of my goals for this year is to actually read more books off of my shelves. You know, I've kind of been collecting a lot of books over time, here and there. I got these bookshelves a couple of months ago and I have been trying to fill them up. I'm a big Kindle reader and I love reading on the Kindle, but I do need to read some more of my physical books as well. And maybe this video can kind of help me get an inventory in my mind of what I have, and just physically holding each of these books can hopefully inspire me to read more of them. All right, y'all, well, let's see all of the books that I haven't read yet that I own. Welcome to my bookshelves. So, is it shelves or shelf? Welcome to my bookshelf. So we're gonna be starting over here in my fantasy kind of shelf? Fantasy shelf. I'm still in the process of organizing everything. I'm trying to go for organizing by genre. I think that kind of just makes the most sense for me in my head. I know everybody organizes their shelves differently, but that's kind of what I'm going for. And I definitely have the most fantasy books out of all of the genres. So we're starting off with two gothic fantasy romance young adult books, House of Root and Ruin and Foxglove. So these are both sequels. This is the sequel to A House of Salt and Sorrow, and this is the sequel to Belladonna. And honestly, these kind of go together just because, in my opinion, the first two books were pretty similar just in terms of tone and genre, and I am looking very much forward to reading the sequels of both of them, and I just haven't got around to it. I also really love the sprayed edges on this one. Then we have The Scarlet Alchemist. This is one that Anthony saw at Barnes & Noble, and he thought that I would like it just based on the cover and the title. And I did like the cover and the title and the synopsis, so definitely up my alley, one I want to read. Now we're on to our first big series, the Throne of Glass series. This has 8 books in it. And this is one that I have been wanting to read. Gonna start it very, very soon, actually. I've kind of just been putting it off just because the amount of books, but I absolutely loved A Court of Thorns and Roses by the same author. I have a feeling I'm really gonna love this series. You know, it's just one of those things. I just gotta like get out of my mental block of the amount of books that I'm committing to and just take it one book at a time. I am planning to make a whole reading vlog, reading the entire Throne of Glass series from start to finish, so stay tuned. It might take me a while though. Then I have the entire Harry Potter series. So this is one that my husband Anthony actually kind of collected over time. These ones are his original ones from middle school, but he wanted to have the complete collection in hardback. I've never read the Harry Potter books. I have seen the movies. I love the movies. I do want to read the Harry Potter books someday. That's one of my goals. I don't know when though. It's not like a pressing goal right now, but hopefully one day I will read the entire Harry Potter series. I feel like if you're a reader, that's just one of those ones that you just kind of gotta read. Here I have Everless and These Violent Delights. These are both some more young adult fantasy. Have you noticed the theme? I really like young adult fantasy. I got both of these books at Half Price Books. This one, honestly, the little tiny sentence here sold me on it. Time is a prison, she is the key. Sounds cool, and the cover was interesting, and I'm kind of a sucker for an interesting, pretty looking fantasy cover. And with These Violent Delights, this author is a pretty popular author. I think she has a couple popular fantasy series, and this is one of them. It's set in China. I just kind of want to read her writing and see if I like her, and maybe read all of her series if I do. Then I have Tokyo Ever After. So this is one I have been saving because I want to read it on the plane to Japan, which me and my husband Anthony are going to Japan later this year, and I'm so excited. And I think that it would be so cool to read a book about Japan, about Tokyo specifically, while I'm on the way there. Saint by Adrienne Young. So Saint is a prequel to the Fable and namesake books, and it takes place in the same universe, and the covers kind of have the same feel. I love these covers so much. So pretty. This book is based on The Father in the Fable and Namesake books, which if you've heard me talk about these books before on this channel, I feel like I talk about them in every video, and I don't understand why. And I didn't even give them 5 stars, which is the crazy thing. Like, I think I gave them 4 stars, but at this point I might as well just up it to 5 stars because I don't freaking stop talking about these books, and I feel like they live on in my heart forever, and just something about them is so special. But the dad in the series, you learn about him throughout the series, but there's also a lot left unsaid, and I think that this book is gonna kind of dive deeper into that, and I can't wait. The Rhapsodic series, I'm pretty sure the actual name of it is the Bargainer series, and if I'm not mistaken, this is an adult dark fantasy romance. I do know that it is about a girl who is a siren who is basically taking these magical IOUs from somebody named the Bargainer. And the whole deal with that is they either need to be repaid or she has to die to repay them. And eventually he comes around expecting his repayment, and that is kind of the premise, at least of the first book. Then we have All the Ever Afters. This is a fairy tale retelling of Cinderella, but it is actually about the wicked stepmother. It's like an origin story of the wicked or the evil stepmother, which is kind of interesting. So I guess we're gonna figure out in this book why she became what she became. The Beautiful Ones by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I have another one of her books also. I have Velvet Was the Night. This is another one on my TBR. I'm excited to read her writing. These kind of seem like 2 different books, if I'm not mistaken. Like, this one is very much magical realism, I think with elements of historical fiction, fantasy as well, about somebody with telekinetic powers, and I don't know if it's fantasy or not. I have no idea, but I know it's based in the 70s, and I loved the cover. And I love the 70s, so it kind of sold me. Moving on, we have The Lies of Locke Lamora. This one has been on my shelves for a while, and it's been one that I keep telling myself I'm gonna read, and I just haven't got around to it. This book is part of the Gentleman Bastards series, and I have just heard so many good things about it, and hopefully is one that I could read sooner rather than later. Next up we have The Night Circus. So I got this one because I had just finished reading Caraval at the time, which is a young adult fantasy series that kind of has carnival, like magician type magic, that kind of feel to it, and I really enjoyed that series a lot, and I just really loved the whole carnival aspect of it. And I've heard this one described as an adult fantasy romance version of Caraval, so that sounds really cool, and I hope that it can kind of give me those carnival feelings again. Moving on to Black Leopard Red Wolf. I actually found this one in a little free library, and I really loved the cover of it. I've also heard a lot of great things about this author in particular, and that this fantasy book is kind of unique, and that it also incorporates a lot of folklore and historical elements as well. Then I have 3 books here. So these 3 books are actually written by local independent authors. I got them from the authors themselves at their booths at a convention. It was kind of wild to actually meet these authors in person and buy their books from them. And I think they're all signed. Yeah, they're all signed by these authors. I definitely want to read these and check them out. Moving on to Zombies versus Unicorns. Honestly, I got this book because of the cover and the inside art. It's just so pretty and it's kind of wacky, and also because Holly Black is one of the authors. Honestly, I don't even know if this is a fiction book or not. I think it is, but I know it was written by a ton of authors, so I don't really know what that means. Maybe I'll read it one day, but honestly, I like just looking at it. Then we have The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Very popular young adult series. I don't know how much elements of fantasy this has in it, honestly. I want to say it does, but also I'm not sure. I've heard it described as like the Hunger Games type of feel. There are more books in the series, and people have also said that these are very quick-paced, easy to read, so like if you're in a reading slump or you're just looking for something just quick to grab your attention, that these would be good ones. If I'm ever in a really bad reading slump, I know what I will go to. Next up we have To Kill a Shadow. I got this one from Walmart, and honestly I got it because of the sprayed edges, and I really love the purple color. It caught my eye and I bought it. Then we have A Multitude of Dreams. So this is a fantasy book that takes place right after a plague, and there was a lot of secrets kept during this plague and just a bunch of stuff that's coming to light after the fact that she has to discover, I'm assuming. And I want to say that this one kind of has more of a gothic esque feel to it, which I have discovered that I really like fantasy books with gothic elements to it. Then we have God Killer by Hannah Kaner. So my friend got me this book for my birthday, so thank you so much. That was so sweet. She also did the artwork for the end screen that I have on my channel as well. She's very talented and she's such a good friend, so thank you so much for this book. I've also been seeing this displayed at Barnes & Noble's a lot, so I think that it is also a very popular series in general, and I wonder if more people are going to start talking about it too, so I probably need to read it sooner rather than later so I can get in on the hype. Next I have We Hunt the Flame. This is another young adult fantasy book. Honestly, the cover just looked so pretty. I know you're not supposed to judge a book by the cover, obviously, but sometimes I do that and I literally buy books solely based on their covers. Then I have All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. Honestly, I got this one because Adeline Grace is also the author of Belladonna, and I wanted to read another one of her books. And also the title, All the Stars and Teeth, sounds kind of intense, and I wanted to know like what the teeth part is about. That's random. Next up we have Graceling. This is a popular young adult fantasy book from the mid to late 2000s. I'm pretty sure it was pretty big at the time. I don't hear a lot of people talk about it nowadays, but I feel like I'm gonna like it. I don't know what it is. Sometimes you just like have a book that you just anticipate you're really gonna love, even though you don't really have anything to back that up with. And I feel like this might be one of them for me. Moving on, I have Shadow and Bone. So I actually have 2 copies of this book. I have Shadow and Bone here, and then I have the entire box set, which I found at Costco, and this also includes Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom. So Shadow and Bone is actually a series on Netflix as well, if I'm not mistaken, and I've heard that that series is good, and I have heard that the book series, the trilogy of Shadow and Bone, is good, but so many people say Six of Crows and Crooked Kingdom in particular are like so amazing and some of their favorite books ever, but I think you do need to read these first if I'm not mistaken. I don't know for sure, but I will probably end up giving this copy away since I do already have the box set, so I'll probably put this one in a little free library at some point. An Ember in the Ashes, popular series. Honestly, you can probably notice a trend. I buy a lot of popular series. The Red Queen. So this is a young adult dystopian book, which I haven't read a ton of dystopian books since my dystopian era when I was like in middle school reading The Hunger Games. And I'm pretty sure this kind of has that same kind of feeling or like the same kind of vibes as that. And that would be so much fun to kind of revisit that. All right, we are down here at my sci-fi section, my little sci-fi shelf, the Darth Plagueis book. Once I read this, I can finally say that I know the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Then I have Speaker for the Dead, which is the second book in the Ender's Game series. I loved Ender's Game so much. It's probably one of my like 6-star reads, you know, like above a 5-star, just best of the best. A lot of people say that the story actually really kicks off in Speaker for the Dead and is kind of what the series really truly is about. So that's exciting, but like I'm also kind of nervous, and in my head I've been putting it off because I'm afraid that it won't live up to this first book, you know? And I know that's kind of an irrational thought to have because like it's not going to take away from this first book for me no matter what happens in this one. But I don't know, I just love this book so much, and the experience I had reading it was unlike anything that I have read in a very, very long time. I will read it one day, honestly. And I have Starters. So this is a book that I've literally had since high school. One of my friends at the time told me about it and told me to go buy it. So I did, and I never read it. I kind of had a big reading phase when I was like in middle school, early high school, and then I just kind of stopped for a while, and I got back into it as an adult. And this was one of those books I guess I had in my kind of like off period of reading, but it is one I definitely want to read, and it's about people who put their consciousness into the bodies of younger people because they're afraid of aging and like kind of obsessed with youth and beauty. So that sounds like an interesting concept. So I don't know why it's taking me so long to read this. Next up we have Red Rising, very popular science fiction book. Everybody and their mama talks about it, and it is a big series as well. So many people have the most insane, visceral, screaming, crying, throwing up reactions to this book and the series, and I want to experience that too. Then I have these 2 books that I recently bought at Barnes & Noble. The Mountain in the Sea, which is about a group of octopuses, octopi, but they develop their own language and culture, and people are researching them. It also has very interesting patterns sprayed edges, which I haven't really seen before. Firefly, this is a novel that's set in the Firefly universe, and it was kind of described as a potential episode that could have been going on during the show, but like in book form, which sounds really fun. I love the series and the movie of Firefly so much, so it'll be really cool to kind of dive back into that world. All right, now we are moving on to kind of my general fiction slash miscellaneous shelf. Honestly, I have a lot going on here. There's some thrillers down here as well. I have this book I got in a little free library. Funnily enough, it's called The Library Book. I don't really know much about what it's about, but the cover looked cool. Then I have the Patrick Melrose novels. I think there's 3 books in one, if I'm not mistaken. It's a show on Showtime with Benedict Cumberbatch as well, and I think that this is just about kind of like rich socialites and crazy things that they do. Then I have Kristen Hanna, The Great Alone. I did read her other book, Comfort and Joy, and I really didn't like it that much, honestly, at all. I do think that she can write very well. Like, she has a good writing style, so I don't want to just like give up on her books altogether because I've heard such great things about her book. So hopefully this one will kind of change my tune on her. Next up, I have The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hilderbrand. She's like a really popular kind of beach read summer book author, and this is definitely summer vibes, one that hopefully when the weather gets warmer here in Texas, since it's still January, I can dive into. Then I have the Crazy Rich Asians trilogy. I love this movie so much, and these are the books that it's based off of. I'm pretty sure the movie only covers the first book, if I'm not mistaken. So I can't wait to kind of see the rest of the story via the next 2 books. And I have 2 Cormac McCarthy novels, Blood Meridian and The Road. I first got Blood Meridian because of this YouTuber named Wendy Goon, and he was talking about this book, and I kind of want to do a video where I read books that he recommends at some point. But this author just in general is very popular. He's written a lot of really good books, kind of like world-renowned books, and The Road is one of them. Then I have Coraline by Neil Gaiman. Honestly, this one is so short. I didn't realize how short it was. I think this one would be a fun one to read kind of during like spooky season. I really love the movie, so it'll be cool to read the book as well. Next up, we have another movie that I love, the original books that it's based on. This is a Howl's Moving Castle trilogy, and the movie is so good. If you don't like anime, I still would recommend this movie to everyone. This isn't gonna make sense, but I feel like for book readers and like book lovers in general, this movie just kind of goes. Like, it's just so peaceful, relaxing, but it has deeper meanings as well. Ghibli movies in general, just so good. Then I have Zombie Abbey, which I literally got because it was described as Downton Abbey meets The Walking Dead. So right here, I kind of tried to start a little pretty sprayed edge section where I display cute books like that. So I have Daughter of the Pirate King and Daughter of the Siren Queen, and these are 2 pirate books. I really like pirate books. I'm always looking for good ones. Hope I like these as well. Sanctuary of the Shadow. Honestly, I got this one because of the sprayed edges. I've also been hearing a lot of stuff about this one. I don't know necessarily good or bad yet, but people are talking about it, so hopefully that means good things. Then I got Powerless. I recently got this one as well. The author kind of documented her entire journey writing this book, which I thought was pretty inspiring, and I can't wait to read this book, especially like with the knowledge of everything the author kind of went through and like her entire experience. We're moving on to some thrillers, so we're gonna kind of speed round this one. We're gonna go through these thrillers pretty quickly. Normal, which the back kind of almost sounded like a reverse thriller to me because the serial killer is like about to change his ways and then he gets caught. Sleep No More, which involves a podcast, which sounded interesting. The Last Word by Taylor Adams, which is about somebody who reads an author's book and leaves a negative review, and the author does not like that and I guess comes after her or something like that. The Gatekeeper, which the back of this book kind of almost reminded me of like a John Wick, Nobody, The Equalizer type of deal. Dead 11, which I love this cover. It takes place on an island where everybody is stuck in the year of 1994. Like, they're watching the O.J. Simpson car chase on repeat. Everybody dresses in the 90s. Like, everything's 90s and it doesn't make sense. And this person is trying to figure out why. The Club. This one is about a bunch of rich people going to a club, like a private club, and I guess people probably die. Apples Never Fall by Leanne Moriarty. She also wrote Big Little Lies, which is a big TV show as well. I got this one on sale at Half Price Books, so that's why I got it. So Cold the River. Honestly, I don't really know what this one is about. I got this at the dollar store when I was like 19 and I just never read it, and I still have it. Maybe one day I'll finally read it. Then I have The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. She's an author that I really want to get into. She's a big thriller author, and I've heard kind of crazy things about her books in general. Crazy in a good way. Then She Was Gone, another Lisa Jewell book. I've heard that the ending of this literally like freaks people out to the point that they feel weird inside for days. And I just want to know what it is, honestly. The Hacienda. I also read Vampires of El Norte by this author. I really loved that book, so I wanted to read her other book, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I got this one recently. I know it's a very popular book. I've heard a lot of dark things about it. It's also a movie as well, so maybe when I finally read the book, I can watch the movie too. The Kind Worth Killing. I've been saving this one because I want to do a video where I read thrillers for a week, and I think I want this one to be one of them. Then I have The Dreamers, which I got out of a little free library about people who all fall asleep and they're trying to figure out why. Mind Games, which involves an FBI analyst who is kind of using like a serial killer to help her solve a case. Sister Dear, which I got on sale at Half Price Books, and honestly the cover just kind of looked interesting and very thriller vibes, I guess. Then I have The Zombie Survival Guide and World War Z. These are both by Max Brooks, who is Mel Brooks' son. This one was turned into a movie, and I really love this movie. My husband actually was the one who got both of these books for me because he just loves the zombie genre in general. And this one is kind of cool because it's like an actual survival guide and it's written like that. So I don't know, maybe I'll learn something and I'll be prepared when a zombie apocalypse really happens. Then I have A Ladder to the Sky and Hollow Man. These ones I both got at Half Price Books, and I think that I got these a while ago, like kind of early on when I started actually physically collecting books. And I know that this one takes place in Austin, Texas, which is where I'm from. Then we have The Plot, and funnily enough, the actual plot of this book is what was so interesting to me because it's about a professor who has the student who is writing this novel, and the student unexpectedly passes away, and the professor or the teacher kind of takes on this novel as his own, and then a lot of problems come from that. Now we're at my little classic shelf here. So I have Dracul, which is technically a prequel to Dracula, which I did read in my vampire books video. This one was published in 2018, so it's definitely more modern. I've heard a lot of people talk really highly of this book, and I didn't quite enjoy Dracula that much, to be honest, so I'm kind of curious how I'll feel about Dracul. And Dr. Stoker, who's one of the authors of this book, is actually the great grandnephew of Bram Stoker, which is pretty cool. Then I have 3 Jane Austen books: Persuasion, Pride and Prejudice, and Zombies, which isn't technically Jane Austen, but it's literally, from what I assume, Pride and Prejudice with zombies. And then I have a good old Pride and Prejudice. They're classics for a reason. Pride and Prejudice in particular, I know has inspired so many different romance novels throughout the years, so I think that this is definitely one I need to read for sure. I also have Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte and The Picture of Dorian Gray. So those are 2 more classics that hopefully I will read sooner than later. Next up we have an assortment of historical fiction. So starting over here we have Shogun by James Clavell. Is it Clavel or Clavell? This book is huge, but it is apparently also very good. I know that they're making a series, I want to say on Apple TV, coming out soon, and I watched the trailer for it and it actually looked pretty good. So hopefully I can read this before I watch the series. Then I have Memoirs of a Geisha. The movie version of this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I never read the book, and I'm not really sure why because it's literally one of my favorite movies of all time. So I definitely need to read the book. Without Words by Ellen O'Connell. I love Ellen O'Connell. Her other book, Eyes of Silver, Eyes of Gold, is one of my all-time favorite 6-star reads. I love this book so much. She writes historical Western romances, and they're just so good. Her covers are not the best, I will admit, but these are ones to really just not judge the books by their covers. Read some Ellen O'Connell. I also have The Ghost Bride. This one takes place in China, and I think that it is a little bit of a paranormal romance, maybe magical realism, also mixed with folklore. Moving on to My Lady's Choosing. This one is an interactive novel, which I have never seen before. So you can basically choose your outcome based on how you choose to read the story, which is kind of a crazy concept. I also have The Lioness. This is a historical fiction set in 1964 in Tanzania. I haven't really read a lot of books set in the 60s, so that is definitely a time period that I want to explore. The Lonesome Dove, very popular Western series. It is also a TV show as well. This is one that I've been wanting to read for a long time and I just haven't yet. I finally have the physical copy, so looking forward to this one. The Ladies of the Secret Circus. I picked this one up out of a little free library. Honestly, it said circus, and y'all heard me talk about Caraval and how I'm kind of looking for more like circusy stuff. I don't know if it really has that vibe or anything like that, but it looked cool, so I went ahead and picked it up. Then I have the first 4 books in the Outlander series, which is also a TV show. This one is kind of like historical romance blended with some fantasy elements. I think like time travel in particular. I know that this one is super popular too, and it's one that I need to read. I feel like as a romance lover, as a historical romance lover also, this is just kind of like one of the big ones that I need to just read. All right, now we're kind of moving down into my more contemporary romance, young adult contemporary romance. So I have The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. A lot of people say that she writes really good romances that are clean, but also have a ton of emotional depth and usually kind of like a more like life lesson, or you're just kind of dealing with life stuff more. And this one's called The Bodyguard, which reminded me of the Whitney Houston and Kevin Costner movie, and I really love that movie, so I hope that this one kind of feels like that as well. Lisa Kleypas, Sugar Daddy. She also writes a lot of historical romances, which I have read some of hers before, and I wasn't like obsessed with them or anything, but I did enjoy her writing style, and it made me want to read more of her books, and this one takes place in Texas. Then I have this Fabio book, which I literally got because I want to read Fabio books for a week. Then I have King of Wrath by Anna Huang. So she has written several popular contemporary romance series, and I just kind of want to check out her writing style also. I have The Spanish Love Deception. I got this when it was super hyped up on Book Talk a couple years ago, and I just never really read it. At that time, I hadn't fully discovered that I don't really like contemporary romances in general that much. I'm still always willing to give them a try because sometimes a few do like seep through the cracks and surprise me, and I love them. But for the most part, it's just not really my favorite genre, so I've just been kind of putting this one off. You know, I haven't really had a great interest to read this one yet. Girl Gone Viral, another contemporary romance. This one is kind of interesting because it is about like kind of like a misconception about this girl and this guy based on a viral tweet, and that's kind of a cool concept that I haven't really read anything like that yet. Then I have Meet Me in Paradise, another contemporary romance. This one's kind of summery. I did see some of the reviews for this one, and a lot of people said that this one actually has a lot of emotional depth and deeper stuff going on that they weren't expecting. And a lot of people kind of saw that as a negative, but for me, I was like, ooh, maybe I'll actually really like that because I do enjoy books with deeper meanings. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. I honestly got this because of the sprayed edges and because I've heard of Lynn Painter. I know she also wrote the book Better Than the Movies, which is a very popular book and a lot of people love it. So hopefully I like Lynn Painter too, but these edges are just so cute. I love them. I also have the Texas Trilogy. I found this at Half Price Books. It is 3 books in one, and honestly I got it because it said Texas. And it looks like there's a cowboy on the cover. Then I have Meet Me in December. So I was planning to read this one this past Christmas, but I just didn't get around to it. So hopefully next Christmas I can read this one too. Okay, now we're on to the last shelf. These are historical fiction hardbacks, so just historical fiction here. I have I Must Betray You. This is a young adult historical fiction. I got this a while ago and just never got around to reading it, but I have heard really, really great things about this author. Moving on to The Wager by David Gran. So this one I think is actually nonfiction, but it reads like a fiction book, and it is a tale of shipwreck, mutiny, and murder. So it kind of has like that pirate vibes that I enjoy. Moving on to City of God. I'm pretty sure this was my mom's book that I just kind of inherited somehow. I'm pretty sure this might be a movie as well. It's crazy once you start realizing how many movies are based on books. Like a very large amount of movies and shows are based on books. Then I have The Portrait of a Mirror. This one is about narcissism, and I thought that the cover was really cool because it's like kind of old-fashioned like artwork, and then you had the little like Instagram like thing right there, so that'll be a fun one. Next up we have Elegance. Honestly, I got this one because it was like $2 at Half Price Books in the clearance section, and the cover kind of reminded me of The Devil Wears Prada. I don't know if that's what it's about at all. Then I have Outlawed. So this one has another gorgeous cover. I feel like I bought so many books based on their cover. Next up I have Atomic Love. This one is set in the 1950s, and it kind of revolves around the atom bomb and the scientists behind it. And this is also a historical romance. And lastly, I have Mary Jane. So this one takes place in the 70s, and this is just historical fiction. I'm pretty sure it kind of reads more like literary fiction, but takes place in the 70s. I found this one in a little free library, and I got really excited because I had heard so many people talk about this book and how it was so good, especially for like a summer book as well. And I love the 70s just in general, so I'm really excited about this one. All right, y'all. Well, thank you so much for watching this video. I definitely have so many books that I have to read. I mean, it's not a bad problem to have, obviously, but I'm definitely gonna be reading more books off of my shelf this year. I feel like this video actually kind of made me excited, you know, to like see exactly what I have. There's so many books that I kind of forgot that I owned that now looking at them, I'm excited to read them. And I am just looking forward to a great year of reading. And I hope you all have one too. All right, y'all, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.